Welcome everyone to another Sabaton reaction video. I'm actually recording this the same day that I recorded yesterday's video, but I'm going to be out of town most of the day making some original content for you guys. I'm going to be at Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland, one of the most historic cemeteries in all of Ohio. Some of the biggest names in American history are there, and you'll see that video in the near future. But I wanted to record this so there'd be something for you today, and it's time for another Sabaton reaction. This is one of my absolute favorite stories from all of history, as well as one of my favorite Sabaton songs. Unlike some of the other Sabaton reaction videos that I've done, I have heard this song and I actually know it really well. I've been listening to it a lot in the car. It's one of my favorite ones. This is the story of the Battle of Castle Itter, which was a story that not a lot of people know about. In fact, it was only in the last few years that I learned about it. And I've been studying World War II history most of my adult life. So we'll get into the history a little bit, but I want to listen to some of the song first. The song is called The Last Battle. It just has a great melody, a great beat to it. The music's fantastic. So we'll listen to a little bit of it line by line. We'll talk about what's happening and talk a little bit about the history behind one of the strangest battles of World War II. So we haven't gotten into the words yet. That was mostly a long music intro, but I just want to mention too that this is actually a music video that was put together by somebody other than Sabaton. So I'll put a link in the description to their music video. They put a lot of hard work into this. I want to make sure that they get credit for it. So head over there and give them a like and leave a comment and let them know what you think of this. So Castle Itter is a prison for political prisoners. Among the people that are being held there, it's in Austria, south of Bavaria, southern Germany. It's actually not real far from where Hitler's from. But General de Gaulle's sister is being held there. There's a tennis star that's being held there. There's a former French prime minister, among others. And so what happens is that this is the final week of the war in Europe. This is May 1945. The Fuhrer is dead. And so the prisoners actually get one of the guys who works at the prison. I want to say he's Yugoslavian by birth, but he goes out with a hidden message that he snuck out with him, and he's supposed to find the very first American troops that he can find and give them a message to please come and liberate the prison, because what they're worried is going to happen is that the SS soldiers who are holding the prison are going to just execute the prisoners, knowing that the war's about to end. So they're hoping somebody will come and liberate them. Well, the guy goes 40 miles before he finds any Americans, and when he finally does, they're in no position to be able to get to the prison. They try to, but they can't get through. It's still surrounded by Waffen SS troops. So then I believe the cook goes out, who I think is Czech, and he finds a German soldier, a man by the name of Gangl, Josef Gangl, who is by this point, I think, working for the Austrian resistance, has been pretty much disillusioned with the German war effort. And he wants to go help, but he knows he can't do it by himself. So he actually, under white flag, tries to find some Americans, and then together they go to Castle Itter.
Just around the corner, 1945, the Fuhrer's reign's at its end. Jenny at the gates, as the SS open fire. There's no time to waste, the final battle's begun.
So there's only, I think, 36 men who go, between the Germans and the Americans, who go together, Germans and Americans on the same side, to this prison. By this point, the prison's SS guards have left, have abandoned the prison. But it's expected that the SS is going to come back to the prison. So the Americans and the Germans set up defensive positions. They've got machine guns and they've got some tanks. I think 4 tanks. And one of them is called Jenny, which is why they say Jenny at the gates. I think Jenny was the name of one of the tanks. So Jack Lee is the captain, the American captain who's in command of the American forces here, I think part of the 12th Armored Division. So it's Gangl and Lee who are commanding these troops, and it's such a, honestly, you've heard me say it before, I love Germany. Germany is one of my favorite countries. I have German roots. My last name was originally German, but it was anglicized about 150 years ago. And so I love the fact that this is a moment when Germans and Americans fight side by side, and this is one of my favorite choruses to any Sabaton song.
Then it's the end of the life of the final journey. Enemies leaving the past. Then it's American troops and the German army joining together at last.
So it's interesting that this happened because by this point, General Patton, who's one of the most well-known American generals, he wanted to actually rearm the Wehrmacht and use the German army to surrender. By this point, hundreds of thousands of Germans have surrendered to the Allies. And the war's pretty much over, but there's pockets of resistance, and the official surrender is a couple days away. He wants to rearm the Wehrmacht and turn them on the Russians. The Soviet army, along with the Americans. He wants the Americans to fight side by side. So this is an opportunity where that actually happens. Just not against the Soviets.
Justice shall be done, the final battle remains. Rebels running low, they're depleting their machine guns. Every bullet counts until surrender's announced. After the downfall of Castle Itter, defeating the Nazis who held up the siege. Gangl and Lee and their men set the prisoners free.
So they get relief. There's an infantry unit that comes and finally relieves them. They've been holding out as long as they can, but they're getting low on ammunition. Only one of the defenders ends up being killed, and that's Joseph Gangl, who is actually pushing the former French Prime Minister out of the way into safety. Think about that. A German fighting alongside Americans, saving the life of a former French Prime Minister, and he's killed by an SS sniper. He's the only man who dies in this fight, and he's actually honored today in Austria as a hero of Austria. There's a street named after him in a town there. He's one of those honorable Germans that, for the most part in Germany, they want to forget about the war, and they don't honor many of the soldiers of the Wehrmacht. But this is one of those men who does get honored, at least in Austria.
Then it's the end of the life of the final journey. Enemies leaving the past. Then it's American troops and the German army joining together at last.
Epic guitar solo.
From the foot of the Alps to the shores of the sea.
I like this part. It's just about Germany and America.
From the foot of the Alps to the shores of the sea. From the home of the brave.
That's from Band of Brothers right there.
From the foot of the Alps to the shores of the sea. And it's the end of the life of the final journey. Enemies leaving the past. And it's American troops and the German army joining together at last. And it's the end of the life of the final journey. Enemies leaving the past. And it's American troops
This is where Gangl gets killed.
army joining together at last.
One of my absolute favorite stories from all of history. Former enemies joining up side by side to fight for what's right, to fight for the innocent, to fight for civilians, to defend them from the SS. Just the Battle of Castle Itter is one of those moments in history that is just so cool to study up on. I don't know if any of the men involved in that are still living. Unfortunately, the reality is that the vast majority of our World War II veterans are gone. I was actually talking to my daughter about that this morning, and my daughter, who's 15, we were listening to Sabaton in the car. She's really into it, like I am, and she said, it's really sad that these, she said this really is something that's so close to us in terms of time and history, and we still have people who are alive. She said, but it's really sad that we don't have many of them left, and it is. I, for one, I'm grateful that I got to know some World War II veterans in my life. My Uncle Harold, who was in the 11th Armored Division. My wife's grandpa, who was a ball turret gunner on a B-17 in the 379th Bomb Group. My Uncle Ralph, who was an infantryman who fought in Germany with the 63rd Infantry Division. I have Uncle Ralph's discharge papers up on one of my bookshelves. And I wish I would have gotten to know them better and heard more stories and talked to them more. I wish I had talked to my Uncle Paul more about his experience in the Korean War. If you have people in your life who experienced history firsthand, talk to them. Record their stories if they're willing to talk about it. Find out everything you can and treasure that as much as you can. I'm excited to learn more about Castle Itter. We'll dive into the Sabaton history of this sometime. There is a new Sabaton song coming out, and my friends at Nuclear Blast Records sent me an email this morning asking if I would cooperate with them in putting together a video talking a little bit about the defense of Moscow, which is what the new song's about. So I'm excited to bring that to you guys very, very soon. In the meantime, please hit like, check out the original video. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.